This is a breakdown of a self-storage facility bought in Oklahoma. This storage facility was purchased at $700,000 or $705,000, and we're gonna break down in this video how much money that they have made, what they bought it for, how they put debt on, and what they actually did. And we're doing it by the numbers. All right, let's start out. First things first, this facility has roughly 118 units at $705,000. That's what was negotiated, and we're gonna get into that. Now, first thing, Charles, who bought this facility, we actually have a podcast with him, and it's linked in the description, so you can go check out and listen to the podcast of his whole story. We're just focusing on Charles' storage facility that he bought right here to break down the finances and look at how he structured this deal and how it performed and what he made. So Charles, he actually became a member of our community and he bought this storage facility. It's a smaller deal at only $705,000 with 118 units, and it was the only storage facility in the city that he bought it. This is a true mom and pop deal. So it was ran very simply, it was under market, and it was definitely underran. You see, a lot of people bought storage facilities a long time ago and they paid next to nothing for it at the time, and they haven't really done anything with them. Storage has changed a lot, and how we operate and how we market and what we do, and there's been a lot of value creation. But for a lot of people, they bought it so low, their basis was so low, it made so much cash flow that they really didn't need to operate or do a whole lot. So they just kind of sat on it. That allows a great opportunity for us to go in, do some added on value, and sometimes this can be capital expenditures, like you're actually making it look nice, but a lot of times it's just operations. We're simply improving the operations and the business side of the storage facility, therefore driving value. Now, this can be done in a lot of ways, and we're going to talk about how he did it here. With these 118 units, the gross unit revenue in place when he purchased it was roughly $117,000. Now, there was a vacancy rate of around 11%, so between 10 and 11% given the month. So they had an occupancy of somewhere right around 89%. That equaled just over a $12,000 vacancy loss. That put the total revenue at just over $100,000 at $105,000 for the storage facility. Now let's talk about expenses. The expenses on this were right around $34,000. That gave us an expense ratio of 32%. That means when he bought it, it was making $71,000. Now, he needed to finance this deal to buy it. He didn't have $700,000+ sitting around. This is an extremely hard deal to finance, especially given the time. This is 2023. Interest rates were going sky high, as we all know. So instead, he went to the owner because the owner has a low basis in the deal, and he says, hey, you want to sell this, but if I have to go get debt on it, that debt payment's going to be so much, I'm not going to be able to pay you what you want for it. So instead, I need you to help me out and be the bank for a little while, and I'll buy your facility and pay you monthly payments. And so he was what is called seller financing. Now, this owner did have debt on it. That debt equaled to be $125,000. So what Charles said was, I'll make you a deal. I'm going to give you $130,000. You can pay off the debt, then I'm going to make you monthly payments, and that equals your income until I refinance in 3 years, and then I will pay it all off. The owner, who didn't want to run the storage facility anymore and really wanted the price they were asking, agreed upon it. So Charles did a seller finance deal with the owner. Now, this payment that he is paying to the owner, that equated to roughly $49,000 or $50,000 a year. That left him with $21,000 in net cash flow from this deal. That's almost a 17% cash on cash return. It's a great deal right out of the gate, especially due to the seller financing, which he doesn't even personally guarantee. Now, this is common in small deals, especially smaller towns, where you don't have active buyers or buying pool. It's even more common when you have interest rates that are high, people don't have access to debt, so sellers are stuck with either selling at a much, much lower amount, which they don't want to do, or doing creative financing. To make the deal work, they negotiated just a payment with zero interest. This freed up $11,000 a year for him. But that's actually not the value of the deal. You see, the value of the deal was in the operations. The owner wasn't operating it to its fullest capacity. Now, that did mean expenses had to go up. So let's run through now and look at what the deal does. We're in Mississippi right now, and we're turning this storage facility around. Now, lots of people are out trying to buy facilities, small ones that range everywhere from $300,000 to $4 or $5 million. Now, they're worried about getting the money or having the financing. This is why we team up with Live Oak Bank, because they get this. They understand storage. In fact, we have them help us underwrite deals for our students and others, because they are one of the best people in the industry when it comes to getting loans, especially small business loans. They can actually help the customers when they find the asset, understanding how much debt can I get? What's it gonna look like? Not just because of the customer they're working with, but because of their knowledge base. That changes them from being a bank to being a real asset to the customer. We recommend Live Oak Bank to our students as well as others that are trying to get into the storage business. They have an in-depth knowledge of this asset class, so it's more than a bank, it's more than simply getting money. They're actually an asset and a partner to them, helping them go through all the things that they don't know and understand. The first thing he did was he built a fence and added on effectively 14 units to this space. That immediately increased the income for its gross unit revenue from $117,000 to $125,000. He created a website, started marketing, occupancy went up, and he was able to get low-paying tenants to pay normal market rate, bringing up the actual rental income to what it should have been. He also did this through getting rid of delinquencies or non-paying tenants. He made $11,000 more by decreasing vacancy, so increasing the occupancy, but he also made another $18,000 because he added units, he got rid of delinquent payments, and he cleaned the revenue up. That meant the total revenue went from $105,000 to $132,000. I did mention his expenses went up, and they did. They went up about $5,000. That brought his expense ratio down to 29%. Now, how did his expense ratio go down? Because he bought it at 32%. Well, because even though expenses went up, the total revenue went up significantly more. That took his NOI from $70,000 to $93,000. That's a $22,000 difference. That increased his net cash flow after debt, which remained the same, from $20,000 to $44,000, over doubling, making his cash-on-cash return 33%. Now, why that's a home run, great cash flow, and has positioned himself really nicely, he still needs to refinance in the future, and he will most likely have higher debt cost. But here's the thing, because his net income went up, commercial real estate's value is driven off net income. That means the value went up. So how much did the value go up because he increased his net income? Well, remember, he doubled it. So his new value at the same valuation that he bought it is over $600,000 more, with a new value of $1.3 million, or over $1.3 million. So just shy of doubling the entire value of that asset. That means not only can he refinance it, he could refinance it, and at a normal financing rate, he could pull out way more than he put in. Typically, even if he wanted to be conservative and have a 50% debt to equity, that would mean he could pull out roughly $600,000. Now remember, he put in $130,000. So he wouldn't even need to do that. If he wanted to have really, really high cash flow and really, really low debt, he could do something much smaller. Like he could only have 30 or 40% debt if he wanted to, and he would still make, 3 times what he put in, plus all the cash flow during that time and after, remaining at a cash-on-cash return of over 20%. An absolute screaming deal. And remember, this deal was in 2023. That is after commercial real estate has been hit. So what did we learn from his deal? There's a few things. First and foremost, he bought a facility that was in a town that probably most people would overlook. In fact, it's probably a town where most large institutions not only don't want to buy, but banks don't want to loan. So you go with something like a local bank or a credit union, or you can sell or finance like he did. But that means you're dealing with mom and pop operators that have to sell at market prices. Big assets trade on institutional level. Well, the big guys, like the investment banks and the hedge funds and everybody else, they get their money at really, really low terms. That means they can pay a lot more. But smaller deals in smaller markets, they have to buy at whatever current normal interest rates are. That means all the buyers can only pay what market rate is, creating a much better value on the buy. That's your actual basis, and that's where wealth is created. This is especially important because these assets are dominated by mom and pops. Pretty much all of them are just single operator owners. Now, you have to also think about this from the standpoint of this seller. This seller had roughly $120,000 in debt. That means that they probably either bought or built this for something like $300,000. They got over double returns plus this huge cash flow that they were making off this asset for the life of this asset. So that seller made bank as well. But because they're mom and pops, they don't want to do much. That's normally what we find. Mom and pops optimize for as little work as possible and occupancy. They haven't adopted to the customer's new needs and how they see the market. We see this all the time. They're not doing online marketing. They're not on mobile. They're not working with customers in the way that they expect or want. Why? Because really they just don't want to. They're making good money, and good for them. So they can sell it, they can get a huge return, make lots of money, but there's still the value and opportunity for the buyer. And this is exactly what we teach and exactly what Charles learned in our group. In short, I think it would be hard to argue that making $600,000 and having an asset that pays you over $50,000 a year isn't life-changing, because it is. And that's one of the many reasons that I love this industry. It's also important to know that all of these doors, 118 plus, he put in 14 more units, he bought at $700,000. Now, try to go look at an apartment building that has 118 units. What that'll cost you. This is the price of a duplex in most markets, yet no one's living in it. This is a steel frame and a garage door. The value comes from operations and supply and demand in the market. So while operations may be a little more complicated because you do need to market, you do need to do these things, you don't have tenants in it. There's nobody that has children that you're kicking out. This isn't problems where you're getting calls because of a toilet. This is a pure value play, and the impact per customer for that revenue is very low. What that means, if you gave a tenant in an apartment building or even a commercial real estate asset a 20% increase, that is not only large, that could be completely life-changing in a bad way for those tenants. For a facility like this, a 20% increase is almost not even noticeable. You're talking about rents that are like $40 a month. So the impact per tenant is disproportionate to the impact that the owner receives. Why? Because it may be small for the individual tenant, but on 118 doors, it's a lot to you. One of the reasons that I love this asset class, that makes it much more resilient to things like inflation. As expenses skyrocket, you can also raise rents to keep up with inflation without adversely impacting the tenants to a degree that would be harmful. And two, it's storage. Essentially, this is warehouse for individuals and businesses. This isn't their residence or where they're living. If you want to know more about investing in this great asset class and you want to see more deals like this and real actual deals that are happening now, not during the boom times, from people like Charles, who are all beginners and just starting, make sure you subscribe, comment what you want to see. If you want to learn more about our community, the link is down below in the description as well. Thanks.